So I think we all understand the generally accepted truth that the boots on the ground, the troops in combat, love their medics. And I would definitely say that for all those combat veterans existing, they understand fully why it is that the medics are considered the literal angels on the battlefield. Today I'm rolling through history. Buckle up, because I'm going to tell you one of those stories about a corpsman in the Korean War who solidified the fact that medics will do whatever they can to save the lives of their grunts. The cool night air along the highly contested Jamestown line carried an uneasy stillness, the kind that settled only briefly as the dank stench of spent shells and gunpowder, mixed with the mumblings of wounded men, filled the night air right before the violence returned. By late summer 1952, the Korean War had hardened into a brutal contest of terrain acquisition and reacquisition. And at this point, sheer will to remain fighting. The ridgelines southwest of the Semichon River were scarred by shell craters and trenches, each position contested again and again. Now, for the Marines of the 1st Marine Division, these outposts are more than just dots on the map. They were barriers, made of young Marines holding back a relentless enemy in a fight for the region. It was where we meet Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class Edward Clyde Benfold. Benfold had arrived in Korea only a few months earlier as part of a replacement draft, filling the ranks thinned by the savage fighting at the chosen reservoir. So no doubt, he was new to combat. He quickly learned what it meant to serve as a corpsman attached to Marines, to move towards danger while others sought cover, and to carry no weapon heavier than his determination, and to measure his own success in the lives saved under fire. By August 1952, Benfold was attached to the Marines defending the battered terrain around Bunker Hill in Outpost Siberia. Chinese forces pressed relentlessly, probing for weakness, and when Benfold's unit displaced to Outpost Bruce, there was little illusion that the ground would be any quieter. The Chinese People's Volunteer Army dominated the night, favoring darkness, artillery, and sudden mass assaults. Then, on the night of 5 September 1952, the attack came. Without warning, Chinese artillery and mortars slammed into the Marine positions. Explosions tore across the ridgeline, collapsing fighting holes and sending dirt and rock cascading through the trenches. The bombardment was precise and punishing, designed to break defenses before the assault. As the shells fell, Marines scrambled to man their positions, shouting warnings and reports through the chaos. When the barrage lifted, Chinese infantry surged forward, an estimated battalion advancing under the cover of darkness. Whistles, shouted commands, and the pounding of boots announced the charge. Marines opened fire as silhouettes rushed their lines. The night erupted in a close, violent, hand-to-hand combat. Almost immediately, the casualties began to mount around them. HM3 Benfold did not hesitate. As rounds cracked overhead and grenades detonated nearby, he moved from position to position, crouching low, sliding into shell holes, and exposing himself repeatedly to enemy fire. Because wherever the Marine lay wounded, Benfold was there, binding wounds, administering aid, offering steady words of encouragement in a storm of noise and fear. He worked methodically, focused entirely on the men entrusted to his care. At one point, enemy soldiers broke into the platoon area where Benfold was treating the wounded. Attacked from both front and the rear, the Marines fought desperately to hold their ground. Benfold caught amid the assault, drew his pistol, and fired at close range, killing about 9 attackers and clearing the immediate threat. Then, without even a pause or hesitation, he returned to his primary mission, saving the wounded Marines. As the fight raged on, Benfold spotted 2 Marines lying in a large shell crater on an exposed ridgeline. Ignoring the danger, he left the relative cover of his position and moved towards them. Enemy fire swept the area, but he pressed forward, determined to reach the wounded men before it was too late. As he approached the Marines, a platoon of enemy soldiers came rushing, hurling 2 grenades into the crater beside the Marines. Almost simultaneously, 2 Chinese soldiers charged towards the position, intent on finishing the wounded Marines inside. And in that instant, in that second, Benfold understood the threat with absolute clarity. Without hesitation, nor a split second of debate, he seized both grenades, one in each hand, and he leapt from the crater and charged directly at the advancing enemy. Closing the distance before they could even react, Benfold forced the grenades against the attackers, tackling them into an opposing shell hole. The explosion no doubt silenced the immediate attack. The cost was final. Mortally wounded by the blast, HM3 Edward Benfold fell where he stood. Another corpsman who had witnessed the act rushed forward under fire in a desperate attempt to save him, but the wounds were too severe. Benfold had given everything he had. Because of his actions, the 2 wounded Marines. Benfold's courage that day was not born of rank or command authority, but a devotion to duty and loyalty to the Marines he served beside. For gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class Edward Clyde Benfold was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on that night of 5 September 1952, awarded the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. He was only 21 years old. Edward Benfold did not live to see the war end, nor did he see the peace that would follow. What remains is his example. A corpsman who ran towards the sound of battle, who placed the lives of others above his own, and who proved that true heroism is measured not only by survival, but by your sacrifice. The citation for his Medal of Honor reads as follows: "The gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life and above and beyond the call of duty, while serving in operations against enemy aggressor forces. When his company was subjected to heavily artillery fire and mortar barrages, followed by a determined assault during the hours of darkness by an enemy force estimated at battalion strength, HC3 Benfold resolutely moved from position to position in the face of intense hostile fire, treating the wounded and lending words of encouragement, leaving the protection of his sheltered position to treat the wounded when the platoon area in which he was working was attacked from both the front and the rear. He moved forward to an exposed ridgeline where he observed 2 Marines in a large crater. As he approached the 2 men to determine their condition, an enemy soldier threw 2 grenades into the crater, while 2 other enemy soldiers tried the position. Picking up a grenade in each hand, HC3E Benfold leaped out of the crater and hurled himself against the onrushing hostile forces, pushing the grenades against their chests and killing both the attackers. Mortally wounded while carrying out this heroic act, HC3 Benfold, by his great personal valor, resolute spirit of self-sacrifice, in the face of almost certain death, was directly responsible for saving the lives of his two comrades that day.